my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Wednesday video where I answer your questions. This week we got 6 questions, pretty good questions, lots of stuff to show, and I kind of want to put it out there that if you want to have your question answered for next week, put it in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer pretty much any question comic related. Let's get into these questions. First one comes from Kay Munin. Thanks again for answering my questions. Of all your favorite comic book characters, which ones do you like to see a crossover with? I'd love to see, I always like the female characters. And one crossover that I'd like to see is, and they did this actually already, but I'd like to see, like, you know, maybe a little bit more with it, is Starfire and Pepe Le Pew. I thought that was there was a cute cover with that. I'd like to see maybe a story or a few things with that. But also I'd like to see crossovers where you have some of the good girl good girl stuff, you know, crossover with other good girl stuff. Just different characters would be interesting. The other one that I was thinking about is I like where you have like very different characters, like sort of like very serious character with a very goofy character. That's why I really liked the homages that Disney has been putting out recently with Marvel, where they have like the Disney characters being the different, you know, Marvel characters like X-Men or Avengers or whatever. I like seeing those kind of like goofy characters being, you know, replacing the normal ones. So I seeing a crossover with kind of these really kind of goofy characters with serious characters, I think would be interesting. I just think it'd be fun. I'd like to see some more fun stuff happening. So yeah, so those are some of the ones I was thinking, but like these specific characters I can't really think of, more genres, if that makes sense. Yeah, I would love to see some of my the good girls that I liked from the golden age, just something done with them in general. So if it's a crossover, that'd be great. So yeah, so the next question you asked was, are there any comic characters that you feel that should never get a live action adaptation? No. For the most part, actually, I'd love to see pretty much any of the characters get some kind of live action, you know, treatment in the future. I'm one of those few people that thought it was cool at first when Disney was doing live action remakes of their older movies. I thought it would be cool. I just felt like they didn't do a good job of it, but I would have, you know, I thought it was a cool idea. So actually, I do like the live action remakes for the most part. For the most part, they do them wrong. If they could do them right, I think it'd be interesting. Because, you know, it's one of those things, like when you see a cartoon, you always kind of wonder, what would they look like? Or how would they reimagine that character as a real person? So there are, you know, I'm one of those people that always finds that a curious question. So, yeah, actually, I always find that a cool thing. So, I'm pretty much open for any character being made into a live version of the character. I'd love to hear other people's opinions on that question. Like, and you know, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what people think would never be a good live adaptation. Next question comes from Quasi Terrible. My friend showed me an Action Comics number 434. With Superman getting his tooth pulled. I was wondering if you had any other dentist cover books in your collection. No, I really don't. I was kind of looking through and I'm like, I don't really have any dentist covers, but there are lots of really cool dentist covers out there. I just don't have any. There's actually one in G.I. Joe that I forgot the issue number, but it's literally this girl and she's like taking a mouth, like the jaw, and like smashing it down on somebody's tooth flying off, and it's a pretty cool cover. There's some really cool ones that I looked up just trying to find dentist covers. But I don't have any in my collection. I've never collected dentist covers. That'd actually be a good one for if you were a dentist, collect dentist covers. Comic covers would be kind of fun. I Like What I Buy wrote, can you show examples of major characters' first appearances not in comic book form, under the radar books and magazines? So, the obvious ones would have been like, Star-Lord or Man-Thing and Rocket Raccoon. Those all made their first appearances in comics, and those are pretty much known by everybody. So I'm not going to show those ones. I have them all. But I'm going to show you a few others that are a little bit more under the radar. And these are books and magazines. So the first one is Hell Rider, #1. My copy's a little rough, but this is quite a cool book. This is actually the first prototype appearance of Ghost Rider. So you can see the character Hell Rider, kind of similar. Same creator involved, so I think this was his first version of the character, and he's got like a flame thrower on the bike. This is also the first appearance of a black female character in comic books, and her name was Butterfly, female superhero, I should say. If I, there was other black characters, but no superhero. So, and her name was the Butterfly. So that's a good first appearance. I'm going to show you a strange one, and this is a magazine with a first appearance of a major character that most people would not expect, would not expect in this magazine. So this is Mad from Mad number 49 from September of 1959. And if you look inside, you see right there, it's the creature from the Black Lagoon. And this is the first appearance of the creature from the Black Lagoon in, a magazine. So before he appeared in comics, he appeared in a magazine. So kind of a cool one. Another kind of first appearance, but more first cover appearance, is in a book. This is a really rough one, but this is The Adventures of Mickey Mouse. And this has the first cover appearance of Donald Duck. And it's on the back. You got Donald Duck right there. So first cover appearance of Donald Duck. I've shown that one before, but hey, might as well show it again. I like that book. Okay, then we got another kind of interesting first appearance. And this is actually a really affordable book because it is kind of under the radar. This is Liberty from 1937, September 18th. And this is the first appearance of Ed the Talking Horse. So inside there's a story about Ed the Talking Horse. So this is the first appearance of Ed the Talking Horse in magazine format. And before he appeared in any comic or anything like that. And I got a few more. I gotta grab them. Okay, this next one is not a first character appearance, but it is a first artist appearance. And actually, this title has many first appearances in it. And I wanted to bring them, but I couldn't find my box with the rest of my collection. But it's Heavy Metal. And this is Heavy Metal 288. And it is the first artwork by Peach Momoko. So if you ever want to get the first Peach Momoko artwork, it's inside this magazine. So, 288. So Heavy Metal 288, first Peach Momoko artwork. Okay, now this is kind of not a character as well, but it's a cool one. This is the Savage Sword of Conan. And the cool thing about this book is it's not a first appearance, as I said, it's not a first appearance, but it is a first appearance of the metal bra. So if you look at Red Sonja, that is kind of the way we kind of associate Red Sonja as a character. In her first appearances, she had like chainmail, which actually is more practical. but this is way more sexy, and this is how most people think of Red Sonja, as having that metal bra. And this is the first appearance of that style of Red Sonja. So it's the Savage Sword of Conan, first appearance of the metal bra. But it is kind of that key appearance because it's the one most people associate with Red Sonja. Okay, and this next one is definitely under the radar. This is Revenge of the Living Monolith, and it's the first appearance of Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse was in the X-Men Dark Phoenix, or one of those ones. Oh wait, was it? I'm trying to remember which X-Men movie, and you're going to correct me in the comments below, but is it Dark Phoenix or Age of Apocalypse? I think it's actually called Age of Apocalypse. X-Men Age of Apocalypse, I think. Movie where he basically is the main bad guy, and he, he's a pretty cool character. He's like the oldest mutant and all that kind of stuff. So this is not Apocalypse on the cover, but he makes his first appearance inside this book. So yeah, first appearance of Apocalypse, and he later came out in the comic format, obviously. But that's his first actual appearance. So those are some of the ones. There's way more. If you know, I think I've shown in the past the Smurfs made their first appearance in a magazine called Spiro. There's other heavy metals that have the first appearance of Betty Page, for example. And there's some really cool ones that I've collected over the years. I did a show with All Sorts of Words. Just recently, like one of my live streams, you can check back in all my live streams, where we talked about first appearances of the Addams Family characters in magazines. So check that out. There's lots of really under the radar first appearances in magazines that you can see in that video. Okay, next question comes from AJ Guez, who wrote, what are your top 5 most valuable non-superhero or good girl books in your collection, and what are they worth? I totally misread that, actually. Most valuable non-superhero or good girl books in your collection. So these are books that are either like not superhero. they're my good girl and pre-code horror kind of makes the whole list here. But there's actually one that's not either of those that made the top 5. So most of my most expensive books are actually superhero books. And if you watch my top 50 video or series, you can see that most of the books on there were superhero books. But there were a few that were not superhero books that are in my top 5 most expensive books. And I'm going to show you those right now. So the first one is this one. This is Mr. Mystery number 12, and it is it is just a injury to eye cover, and it's like the extreme version of that, where this hot poker is kind of going towards the guy's eye, and he's freaking out. This one is a really expensive pre-code horror book. It goes for around $3,500 in a 1.5. Just to give you a sense, I think it's how do you do the math? It's like $1,500 a point or something like that, or something. I don't know how to do the math on that. No, it's more than that. It's like 3,000 a point or something. It's just something crazy. But it is like $3,500 in a 1.5. It's a very expensive book, very crazy expensive. I don't know why it's so expensive, but it is a great cover, so it is just really expensive. Next one is not Good Girl or pre-code horror, but it is a very expensive book. It's My Little Dot, number 1, and this is the first appearance of Richie Rich in comics, and it's the first appearance of Little Lotta as well. Does it say? Yeah, it just says those two. So the first appearance of Richie Rich. So very major character, actually. And this goes for around $3,800 in a 2.5. It's a pretty expensive book, too. And then the next one is a pre-code horror cover and comic. This is Witch's Tales number 25. And it's just a really great, I believe it's, I was going to say Bernard Bailey. No, it's Howard Nostrand. Or Nostrand cover. And it's just a really great decapitated head in a bell. It's a Quasimodo character down below. And it's just a really classic PCH cover. It's like right at the end of the pre-code horror era, and it is pretty gruesome. So it goes for big money. This goes for about $1,000 a point. So it goes for about $4,500 for a 4.5. So this is, pretty cool one. And next on my list is one that was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent, and it was actually used in the photos inside The Seduction of the Innocent, and it is Reformed Schoolgirl. So this one was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent because of its like corruption of the youth. You got this kind of sleazy looking girl hiking up her stockings and smoking a cigarette, and it's like Reformed Schoolgirl, and it's like sort of like a letter warning kids about this kind of thing. So yeah, this one mentioned The Seduction of the Innocent. It was used inside the photos that were shown inside the book of The Seduction of the Innocent, and it is just a classic Seduction of the Innocent comic. This one goes for pretty big money as well. This goes for the same as the Witch's Tales, but it's a lower grade. So this goes for $4,500 in a 2.5. It's a really expensive book, hard to find as well. Okay, the last one is probably just blows the other ones out of the water because it is very expensive. It is my Phantom Lady number 17. And this one goes for around $14,000, even in a restored 8.5. Usually with the restored books, the higher the grade, the bigger the discount. It's one of those weird things. This one goes for about a tenth, or even a little bit less than about a tenth actually, of what a non-restored one goes for. So it makes a big difference to have that purple label. So you can imagine that it goes for over 100,000 if this was an 8.5 blue label. All I have to do is use some color or something, make that blue, or do the resubmission thing. I just need this reholstered. I'm joking. Okay, not going to go down that controversy, but just a really great book, and it's a beautiful copy. Like I love this copy because even though it's an 8, it's restored. It looks really awesome. I don't care, and it made it so that I could almost afford it. I really can't afford this book. It's just so expensive, but I did buy it. I paid payments on it to get it. So this is Phantom Lady 17. It's a famous Matt Baker cover, just a classic cover. Probably considered one of Matt Baker's most. It's actually his most expensive cover of all the covers that he's done, because it had the biggest sale. It actually had the biggest sale of any Good Girl art cover. I think it had like a $500,000 sale once. So there's not many books that kind of get into that price range with the Good Girl art covers. So this one, actually, this one is superhero. So in a way, I kind of bent the rules on this one because it is a superhero book. So I shouldn't have shown this one, actually. Everyone's going to be like, oh, that's a superhero book. Well, I'm showing it anyways because I think of this as a Good Girl art cover. So sorry for that. But those are my my top 5. I hope you enjoyed them. And I'm going to get so many complaints. Oh, that's a superhero book. I know, it's a superhero book. Okay. But I see it as a Good Girl art cover because it's a classic Good Girl art cover. Okay, it was also mentioned in Seduction Innocent as well because of the headlight cover element to it. So I hope you enjoyed those. Okay, the next question comes from M. LeBlanc. Um, and hi, Alan. I have another question about grading. I've heard other channels mention things like cracking open slabs, and looking to buy CPR candidates. CPR stands for crack, press, and resubmit. Why would people do that? I get why people would do that, but what happens to with the census count? If somebody buys a graded book, breaks it open, and does things to improve its shape, throws away the label without letting CGC know, then sends it back to CGC for a grade bump, it only seems logical that both the old and new cases would remain on the census. Does that mean that the CGC census is an overestimate of the number of CGC books in circulation? How bad is the estimation do you think there is? Okay, so I've actually talked about this before. This is what I call a ghost census. That, especially with the more modern books, you might see this where there's a lot of books where if you get a 9.6, it's annoying. You go, oh man, a 9.6. If I press it a bit better, I could resubmit it and get that 9.8. A lot of people, when they do that, they don't resubmit with the previous label. So what happens? It does get on the census twice. And you will see that on the census for a lot of the books. There was actually even some pretty major books that I've heard have ghost censuses where people have cracked it out and resubmitted and got that little bit of grade boost, and it's like a major golden age grail kind of book, like a Superman 1 kind of level, and they've resubmitted it without notifying CGC of that. And so you'll have like multiple copies. So obviously the censuses are out of whack with reality of how many books are really graded out there. But how out of whack it is, we do not know. I would suggest that it's really hard to say. Like I can't say like, oh, there's like 50% overestimate or whatever, but because there's just nobody knows. Yeah, it's one of those mysteries. The only way is if everybody gathered all the graded books and took a look at how many there were, because we don't know. We really don't know. And I wouldn't want to hazard a guess, but I do know that there are people within the industry that are major dealers that seem to overprice books or sort of react to books a little differently than the rest of us plebs do. Like the rest of us that don't know the real numbers. And I think they might know how many of these books are actually in existence, because I see this a lot where I see vendors going after certain books in a different way than you would expect. If there's if the census is real, then you would expect them to be a little bit not so aggressive about going after certain books. But if the census is filled with ghost issues that don't exist, where it's over the actual number, or the actual numbers over what really is out there, I should say, then that would explain their kind of activity. So this is one of those things where a lot of there's always that almost secret society or cabal of vendors who don't really want people to know how many copies are really out there. So I wish I knew. I really did. I have no idea what to say on this one. But yeah, it is something that's well known, especially among collectors. And I believe there is even CGC forums where people talk about it. CGC has tried to correct this issue by getting people to resend their books back with the previous labels, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And you get the ghost census. So it is an issue. Next question comes from Cody Collier. He wrote, what are your top 5 comics you've always wanted, but even if you but you but even you haven't been able to get your hands on yet in any grade? What is the rarest comic in your collection? Okay, so this is actually an interesting one. So normally people would think, oh, he must be thinking Golden Age comics because I collect a lot of Golden Age. All of the books on this list are Bronze Age to modern. And they're just ones that are really, really hard to find. I don't know what's wrong with them. They're books that I haven't been able to find or in any grade. And they're ones that, there are ones where I can buy it, even on the list I'm about to say. But their price for them are crazy, not in line with any form of reality. So I'll go through them though. The first one is Zombie Tramp number 3. And that one has been eluding me. It's been on my top 10 list for a while. It's one that I really like to have. It's the first series of Zombie Tramp. So Zombie Tramp number 3. That's one that I really like to get. The next one is Thorn, Tales of the Lantern. And it's a book where it came out before Bone number 1. And it has pretty much the whole story before the Bone series was put into comics. So it's kind of an earlier, it's almost like a trade paperback book that came out before the Bone series did, that has Jeff Smith's Bone characters. So it's one that I really like to get. But I think there's a copy on eBay right now for like 20,000 or something insane. Yeah, it's just way out of my price range. Another one that's kind of interesting, this is a Golden Age book, is Haphazard, number 14. And that's actually the first cover art by Al Felstein. And it's just a really great cover. It's one that I'd really like to get, but I haven't ever seen it or been able to find it in any way. And it's on my list because of that, because I can't find it. The next one is Vuti from 1978. And Vuti has the first appearance of Omaha the Dancer. Sort of an adult character, but kind of an anthropomorphic character that's kind of interesting. I collect, actually. And I'd like to get her first appearance. So Vuti from 1978. And the last one is Visions number 1. That's from 1979, and it has the first appearance of the Flaming Carrot. There's actually, so Visions number 1, 1979, I'd like to get that. That'd be really great. But there's actually 2 others or 3 others that would be on this list in a way. They're the last 3 books that I need for my Seduction of the Innocent collection. And yeah, those ones drive me nuts. So it's Nightingale, Tween Age Digest, and what's the other one? It's like special edition, like some special edition something. And I haven't been able, one of them I can buy right now on eBay, but the one I'm messing up the name of, I'm maybe doing that on purpose, but it's overpriced, and I don't want to pay overpriced for something that even though I really want it. I think they want 5,000 for it, and I think it's worth about 2. It's like a little bit out of line with what it should be worth. So I'm waiting for a cheaper copy to come. So so those kind of were on my list, but not the ones that I haven't even seen. These are other ones I really haven't even seen, and they'd be cool books to get. So yeah, so those are some of the ones that I want. Next question, I should say, is from Durka Minio. I never get his name right, Durka. Is it normal for auction companies to post prices? It doesn't happen at Heritage or Comic Collect. I'm wondering if this is an outlier or just does things different. It's a big PCH auction seemingly, but I never heard of them. PBA auctions or collectibles. how do you know you can trust companies? Well, PBA is actually a fairly major auction house, and you can trust them. They do post the prices. They post. It's kind of interesting. What they do is PBA. If you ever check them out, they'll post a range of prices. They think that this book is worth $300 to $500, and then they'll put the starting bid not at $1 like Heritage does, but they'll put the starting bid at a little bit low the minimum of what that range is. So if they say three to 500, they'll put the starting bid as 100. So you can get in really cheaply on a book, and if nobody bids on it, well, you got it cheaply. So they do that kind of weird price range. Now, Heritage does something similar. It actually posts the Overstreet guide information. So you actually can say, okay, they say what the Overstreet guide says a 6.0 will be worth, and if it's a 6.5, they'll say 6.0 is $400 and a 7.0 is $600, and so if it's between that, you can sort of guess what the price might be. They do that kind of thing on Heritage a lot, where they post the Overstreet information for the books that are on auction at Heritage. So you can get it on other sites. So PBA you can trust. So don't worry about it. There are, most of these auction houses are legitimate. There's some smaller auction houses. Like I think of Comic Book Investments. Like he's a small auction house, but you can buy books from him, and he's trustworthy. So just because they're smaller doesn't mean that necessarily bad. They can be good too. So and sometimes you can get deals because they are not as recognized as the Heritage or eBay auctions or My Comic Shop auctions. So definitely don't be discouraged by the fact that they give the price range. It actually helps you because in some ways, when there is that price that they say, oh, the value is this, it does hold back what people are going to bid on it. Now on Heritage, it doesn't quite work that way, because I've seen the Overstreet price is like $100 and then it sells for like $300-400. People kind of know that Overstreet prices are a little bit out of whack, but on PBA the price range is pretty accurate to what FMV would be. So it kind of gives you a sense of, don't overbid on this thing, and because of that, it might actually keep the prices lower than if there was no price range and people were just bidding willy-nilly on books. So it can really help, is my point. So don't be afraid to bid on them. I actually bid on a few of their auctions, so hopefully one of us will win. So yeah, those are the questions for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have a question, put it in the comments below. And what did you think of these questions? And you can put your answers into the comments as well. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.